Good morning. Today I'm continuing to think about the 10 lepers that we thought about yesterday. This is in Luke chapter 17, verses 11 to 19. And it's a particular aspect of this experience that they had. They were 10 lepers. They lived exiled from the city. They lived somewhere between Galilee and Jerusalem. Jesus was on his way south towards the capital for the ultimate end of his life. And he met these 10 lepers, one of whom was a Samaritan. And they cried out and said, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." And when he saw them, he said to them, "Go and show yourselves to the priests." And as they went, they were cleansed. And I was thinking, why did they go? He told them to go. They obeyed what he said. But they were not cleansed before they started to go. They had to start going towards Jerusalem to be checked out by the priest before there was any evidence that they were healed. It was only as they went that they were cleansed. And they came to a realization that they were healed, and one of them turned back to see Jesus. And I was thinking that this is a wonderful example of walking by faith. Paul says in 2 Corinthians 5:7, "We walk by faith, not by sight." And in that context, he's talking about living our life here on earth in the expectation of life with the Lord after our deaths. In that aspect, we walk by faith because we haven't yet seen what has been promised to us. We walk believing that we are eternal beings, believing that we are forgiven, believing that we will have eternity with the Lord. So every day we are walking by faith. But this story of these lepers shows us another aspect of that. That if the only time you do something for the Lord or you obey the Lord is when you have seen what's happening before you do it, you're not walking by faith. You're walking by sight. If he'd said to these lepers, if he'd spoken to them and said, be cleansed. Now that you're cleansed, go and see the priest. Get it checked out. It would have been a different thing. But he didn't. He just said, "Go and show yourselves to the priests." And they went. When they turned and went away from Jesus, we don't know how far they went before they realized that they were cleansed and they were healed. But they had to act on the words of Jesus before they saw the evidence of what he'd done for them. You know, we often live our lives. We think we're following the Lord, but we have the evidence in front of us. And I think this is why, you know, when you first come to faith, it does seem as if lots of extraordinary things happen and God confirms our faith with signs following. You know, wonderful things happen. Our prayers are answered. We're very blessed. But then we can go through times when it feels like God hasn't heard anything that we've said to him at all. And we have to live our lives by faith, knowing that it is impossible for us to pray to God about anything and for him not to do anything. It's impossible for God not to respond to us because we're in a covenant relationship with him. And as we ask his Spirit to tell us how to pray, then we know that he hears our prayers. But our prayers and our walk with him, the evidence may be delayed. I don't think I'm explaining this very well, but what I'm trying to say is, you know, if we only do things for the Lord on the basis of something that has already happened, then we are not walking by faith. If the Lord says, "Go and do this," or We feel we should go and do this or that or the other. We don't know how it's going to work out. It's a step of faith to start the process. And we won't, if you wait until God tells you something specific before you do anything for him, then you will never do anything. You know, if you need God to say, I mean, there's so much in the scriptures about how we should behave towards other people, how we should love our neighbour as ourselves, how we should speak for him, how we should be his witnesses, we should tell people about him. So really, we don't need an impulse of the Spirit inside of us to open our mouths and speak for him. We don't need an urge of the Spirit to tell people that we've been to church or that we've had a wonderful time in the Lord's presence. The Lord has given us so many instructions to follow. You know, when the disciples went out, they were sent out 2 by 2, weren't they? When they were sent out 2 by 2, before that they hadn't done anything. All they'd done was watch Jesus doing things. And he sent them and told them, I'm giving you authority. Off you go. You do the things you've seen me do. And they had no evidence that it would work for them. They'd seen it work for Jesus, but they hadn't seen it work for them. And I think that's why when they came back, they were so surprised. They said, oh, do you know, even the demons were subject to us. You know, we thought we might heal a few people, but set them free from demons? Because they'd never done it before they were sent out. And they had to go in faith and obedience. And that is how our lives should be. That when we hear the Lord tell us to do something, we do it before we have any evidence that what we're going to do is going to be effective or is going to be blessed. Before we know the outcome, we must keep following. We are disciples. We are learning all the time. And just like these lepers, they acted on the word that Jesus gave them before they had any evidence that they were healed. We walk by faith, not by sight. Have a great day. God bless you. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.